Alright, welcome back. There's another video we're gonna be doing. 25 urban legends in every US. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna react to 25 urban legends every United States state. Depends on what state it is, but we'll see. Let's see if we can get a bunch of them are from certain states or where I'm from.
Played.
And
Record
we
any.
only do 25 items per fact or per list.
Okay.
25.
Alabama, Hell's Gate, Oxford. On Old Boiling Springs Road, there's an abandoned bridge where many years ago, a young couple died after losing control of their car and plunging into the river below. If you stop on the bridge and turn off all the lights in your car, one of their ghosts will get into your car and leave a wet spot on your seat. Awkward. Alternatively, if you stop on the bridge and turn around, you are no longer looking at the bridge, but into the gates of hell. That escalated. The local government has deemed the bridge unsafe, but instead of, reasonably tearing it down, they've just blocked it with cement barriers. Hell is dangerous, kids. Don't plunge yourself into it.
24.
Alaska, secret UFO base, Mount Hayes. A man named Jim Schnabel wrote a book in 1997 called Remote Viewers, wherein he describes the United States' alleged involvement with aliens who had a base in Alaska. This book includes a transcription of sighting reports supposedly sent to J. Edgar Hoover when he was the head of the FBI, and clarifies, for those wondering, that the aliens were very human-looking, differing only in their eyes and several internal organs, and, mind control abilities.
Neat.
How would you know that they had different organs and shit? Unless you were the one that killed them.
Cool. I want to meet him.
23.
Arizona, Slaughterhouse Canyon. Legend goes that if you go to Luana's Canyon at night, you can hear a woman sobbing. That's because it's the ghost of a woman who killed her children. Back during the gold rush, a very poor family lived in the canyon. The father walked off to find food and didn't return. The mother, driven mad by the cries of her hungry children echoing around the canyon, killed them all and put on her wedding dress to wear as she slowly starved to death. Since then, the place has earned the nickname Slaughterhouse Canyon. Neat.
22.
Arkansas, Avon Cemetery, Des Queen. Legend has it that once a long time ago, before there was a graveyard, a woman sat her baby on the edge of the well while she was getting water. You can see where this one's going. Yep. The baby fell in and drowned. The graveyard grew around the well, and nowadays, if you sneak into the cemetery at night, you might see a woman with a baby running through the graveyard. On top of that, if you go to the well and drop a coin in, you'll hear a baby's cry. It's probably gonna sound like, why didn't you just put me on the ground?
21.
California, Hollywood sign. Hollywood. As California's most unsightly landmark, the Hollywood sign has an unsurprisingly sordid history. In September of 1932, supposedly after getting a bad review, an actress climbed to the Hollywood sign and jumped to her death. Hollywood, being Hollywood, her suicide note was published. I am afraid. I am a coward. I am sorry for everything. If I had done this a long time ago, it would have saved a lot of pain. Legend now says that anyone who goes to the top of the Hollywood sign alone is accompanied by death. And many suicides have happened there since.
What?
Don't be mean, folks. Some people might jump off a Hollywood sign. The Hollywood sign, in fact. So.
Be nice.
Yeah, keep these comments nice.
Dude, just be nice.
20.
20.
Colorado, Hatchet Lady, Old Mrs. Johnson, Red Rocks. The iconic concert venue and park had its own ghost. Supposedly, Mrs. Johnson would pull her coat over her head and carry a hatchet to scare off her daughter's would-be dates, and thus now appears decades later as a headless ghost to hikers and concert-goers who want to get to know one another better in the shadows. In other tales, Hatchet Lady was a homeless woman who used to live in a cave and kill children.
Oh.
Scary. Today, people hang out in the old graveyard off one of the trails, trying to get a glimpse of her. Either way, she's just one of the several ghostly apparitions that are haunting Red Rocks. Next time you go to Red Rocks, look out for Hatchet.
19.
Connecticut. Vampires. Jewett City. This story is kind of historically cool, but factually sad. In 1854, a family from Jewett City was mostly killed by a nasty bout of tuberculosis. The members of the family that did not succumb to the disease decided that the sickness was a curse from a dead family member that made said dead family members thirst for living blood. Being reasonable folk of the mid-1800s, they exhumed their dead relatives and burned them. Some people claim that this family inspired Bram Stoker, but that's up for debate.
Was a steak
My mother's from
first.
Connecticut. I don't think she's a vampire, but there have been signs.
Yeah, you're supposed to stake him first before you burn him. That's what they say in the movies, but I don't know if it's true. I don't know if this is real. This is an urban legend. I don't know if there's an urban legend of vampires.
She's a witch.
18.
Delaware, Ghost Justice. In 1744, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Delaware, Samuel Chew, died. As we all do. In life, Justice Chew had been mocked mercilessly for his last name, with some people making exaggerated chewing movements and people loudly going, "Achoo!" and faking sneezes, proving that bullies throughout the ages have been equally annoying. After dealing with annoying bullies his whole life, Justice Chew's spirit wasn't ready to move on. So, he haunted people in Delaware, a specter in flowing black robes, by making people sneeze uncontrollably. That would really suck. The resourceful townspeople sent Chew's spirit to rest by throwing another funeral, this one completely with an empty casket and all the respect Chew didn't get in life. No one had reported sneeze haunting since.
Okay.
All this being said, that's lame bullying.
That is lame bullying.
A chew? That's the best you can do?
I know.
Look, I'm not encouraging bullying by any means. It's just, I don't know, you guys in the comment section have been more creative than that.
That's true.
Not all of you.
Yeah, be nice.
Oh, I just meant some of them are, very bad insults.
17.
Florida. The Bloody Bucket Bridge, Wakulla. There are so many ghost stories and urban legends in the Sunshine State that it makes the Florida Man headlines look kind of tame. At least those people are the only weird ones while they're being alive, right? So legend says that the late 1800s, an ex-slave came down from Georgia and started working as a midwife. This woman thought that many of the families she served already had too many mouths to feed, so she took it upon herself to start smothering newborns. Great. Which she would then take and bury in the woods by the river. Eventually, the townspeople caught on and stopped letting her deliver babies. So she went insane, because of all the baby souls haunting her. She would sit next to an empty bucket and would slowly fill up with blood, which she would take down to the bridge and empty into the river. Over and over again this happened, until she just threw herself in the river, and it read red for 3 days. If you go to the bridge at night and look at the water, it runs red. Florida has a bunch of fun stuff. We're a great state. Some of us are okay, though. Florida is not awful, guys. It's decent. Florida's not awful.
It's great.
16.
Georgia.
Okay.
The Cursed Pillar, Augusta. Once upon a time, an evangelist wanted to preach in a marketplace in Augusta, Georgia. The authorities intervened and said, "Thou shalt not ruin our market with hellfire and brimstone stories." So the evangelist put a curse on the market, saying it would be destroyed and only his favorite pillar would remain. A short while later, a tornado did in fact blow through town and destroy the market. But guess what? Left the pillar standing. Afterward, up through the 1950s, stories spread of workers who died via thunderbolt or casual machinery malfunction when trying to move the pillar. Anybody want to try? Well,
Sure.
don't, because we need you, because you guys are our subscribers and we love you. So don't.
I wouldn't do it.
15.
Hawaii. Night Marchers. Oahu.
Oh, wow.
I actually know about this one. The Night Marchers announce their presence with the beating of drums, sometimes torches, appearing before they do. Coming out at night, the spirits of ancient Hawaiian warriors are bound to protect Hawaii in life and in death. In some Hawaiian families, even saying Night Marchers is taboo. There are several places in Oahu that they frequently are seen. Supposedly, you're more likely to encounter them if the moon is full. If you see them, run. If you look them in the eye, you will be killed and forced to join their ranks. What the? What was that? Oh my.
Okay.
Oh, you're a warrior.
14.
Idaho, Murder House, Boise. There's a house in Boise known to most as the Murder House, or occasionally the Chop Chop House, where you might already suspect a gruesome murder happened. It all started with a fight between 3 men. A man named Preston Murr was shot in the shoulder as a result and ran to the neighbor's house for help. The neighbor didn't let him in, but called the police. The next morning, that same neighbor called the police again because there was blood smeared across their door and trails of blood in the street. The other 2 men had dragged Murr back to the house, shot him fatally, and then dismembered him. Oh. They found pieces of Murr in the reservoir a few days later. Over the last 30 years, the house has been in use, even being a fraternity house at one point, and people have reported seeing shadows out of the corners of their eyes. A dark, oily presence, and the basement has a creepy feel that few want to experience.
13.
Illinois, Thunderbirds. In 1977, a woman named Ruth Lowe claimed 2 giant birds attempted to pick up her 10-year-old son, Marlon, and carry him away. She claimed that they carried him over 35 feet before dropping him. She described the birds as having white rings around their neck and a black body with a beak that was 6 inches long. Wings of at least 4 feet each, these are my wings. While this could have been one mom who'd had too many wine coolers, legend has the giant creepy birds in the area go back to the Cahokie tribe. The most famous of the cliff drawings that the Cahokie tribe left behind is called the Piasa bird, which was a large bird-lizard hybrid. The tribe called them Thunderbirds because of the sound they made when they flapped their wings. Guessing it sounded like thunder.
12.
Indiana, Central State Hospital, Indiana. When it first opened in 1848, they called it the Indiana Hospital for the Insane. It catered to mental illnesses from depression to the criminally insane, including those who were mentally handicapped. By the time the hospital was renamed Central State Hospital in the 1920s, there were over 5 miles of tunnels where they kept the worst patients. At its height, Central State housed over 3,000 patients, with the most insane being kept in an underground network of tunnels so no one could hear them scream. That is terrifying. Eventually, the hospital turned to more humane techniques, but angry, abused, insane spirits, well, they don't forget. Even once they stopped using the basement tunnels, staff still heard screams of the patients who had been housed there, and there were reports of unseen physical forces such as choking and several patients disappearing without a trace. The screams were so bad, the hospital had to constantly rehire staff before it was finally closed in 1994. Unmarked graves kept being discovered after that. So great, now this creepy place just sits there, and that's just so scary. No one could pay me, you couldn't pay me anything to like go in there. You couldn't pay me anything to go in there.
You could pay me things.
No freaking way. I've had my fair share of ghost experience.
11.
Iowa, Lover's Leap, Elkader. The story goes that sometime in the 1830s, Lou Millville befriended the local Native Americans. He got particularly friendly with one of the chief's daughters, White Cloud. One day, Millville was captured for following some younger tribesmen into the woods, and he was ordered to jump off the cliff. He fought his captors, threw them over the cliff, and fell unconscious. When he woke up, White Cloud's shoes were carefully placed next to him, for she had jumped off the cliff herself. Much like Romeo and Juliet, no one wins. Unlike Romeo and Juliet, the legend says Lou buried White Cloud, but fails to say he offed himself to be with her.
10.
Kansas. Saline River Ghost, Ellis County. Supposedly, there's a ghost of a Native American that haunts the banks of this river, having appeared to several travelers. He's apparently stuck there until he finds the skull of his father, who was killed by white men.
9.
Kentucky, the Pope Lick Monster. This should be fun. The legend says that in the 1930s, a traveling circus performer found a deformed half-man, half-goat baby with nubby little horns while the circus was stopped in Maryland. The head of the circus, seeing an abandoned and deformed child, decided to build a freak show as part of the circus, starring Baby Goat Man. Shockingly, spending most of your life chained in a cage doesn't lead to a kind disposition, and the goat baby grew into a large, angry goat man. One night, the circus train was on its way to Louisville, Kentucky, when it crashed just before Pope Lick Creek, and justifiably angry, Goat Man was freed. In an act that surprised absolutely no one, Angry Goat Man ripped the survivors of the crash to shreds. To shreds, you say. And in the years since, there have been a number of deaths, missing persons, and animal mutilations, enough to make the reasonable assumption that Angry Goat Man, now Pope Lick Monster, still lives in a cave nearby. Maybe you should give him different name. Either one. Angry Goat Man, Pope Lick Monster. I think you could get friendlier with your names.
Yeah.
Bullies are not okay. Especially not to Angry Goat Man.
8,
Louisiana, La Lurie Mansion, New Orleans. Considered by many to be the most gruesome haunting in the U.S., the Madame La Lurie Mansion has over 180 years of violence and haunted activity. And it's little wonder why. When Marie Lalaurie built her mansion, it was considered to be one of the most beautiful and well-appointed homes in the French Quarter. But Madame Lalaurie was a monster. As if owning human beings wasn't bad enough, Madame Lalaurie took great pleasure in torturing her slaves, reportedly keeping her cook chained to the kitchen stove. When fire broke out, her neighbors had to break down the doors to the slave quarters as she had refused to provide the key. Inside, they found 7 badly mutilated enslaved people who had been kept there for some time. I mean, seriously, it makes me nauseous. Once the people got word of her cruel treatment, an angry mob destroyed everything left in the mansion and drove Lalaurie out of town, as she so deserved, because she sucked, dude.
7,
Maine, Colonel Buck's grave. Buck Sports founder Colonel Jonathan Buck fell in lust with a woman, and as happens, she became pregnant. He sent her away, and for a few years thought nothing of her, until she returned, asking for support to help raise his son. Being the decent man that he was, Buck declared her a witch and had her burned. Afterward, their son stole her leg and buried it so his mom would have a somewhat proper burial. There's a stain on good old Colonel Buck's tomb in the shape of a leg. They've replaced the stone, and the leg reappears, just to remind everyone that years after his death, what an awful person he was.
6,
Maryland, Point Lookout State Park. Maryland is home to what is supposedly the most haunted lighthouse in America. It's not a particularly impressive piece of architecture as far as lighthouses go, but it was occupied by federal forces and used as a hospital and prisoner of war camp during the American Civil War. Confederate soldiers can be seen running across the road somewhat regularly, and the wife of a former keeper wanders around in a pretty dress telling people that this is my house. Despite a lighthouse nearby, several shipwrecks have occurred near Point Lookout.
5,
Massachusetts, the Bloody Pit. The Hoosac Railway Tunnel is almost 5 miles long and runs through the Hoosac Mountain Range in western Massachusetts. Construction lasted 24 years, from the 1850s to the 1870s, and 200 men died while building the tunnel. This included a cave that was assumed that everyone died instantly, but when they excavated it, they found at least one person had lived for some time. This earned the tunnel the nickname the Bloody Pit. The tunnel is still sometimes used by freight trains. There have been weird sightings and sounds reported near the tunnel for over 150 years.
4,
Michigan, the Nain Rouge, Detroit. The Nain Rouge, also called the Red Dwarf of Detroit, is a small red devil-looking creature, said to be an omen of coming doom. Supposedly, the Ottawa tribe considered it a protector, but once it was seen by the founder of Detroit, Antoine de la Mothe Cadillac, it became a harbinger of bad things. It was reportedly seen before the riots in '67, the Battle of Bloody Run, the Great Detroit Fire of 1802, and before the Great Ice Storm of '76. So if you see it anytime soon, run.
3,
Minnesota, Lake Pepin Serpent.
Okay.
You've heard of the Loch Ness Monster?
Yeah.
Well, Minnesota has its own great water thing. It's called the Lake Pepin Serpent, also known as Pepe. Many residents claim that they've seen Pepe, and there's a $50,000 reward for anyone who can get video recording of her. The first sighting was in 1871, and according to the legend, the Dakota used thicker dugout canoes instead of birch bank when traveling on Lake Pepin due to large creatures in the lake who would put holes in the thinner birch canoes.
2,
Mississippi, Mercritus outbreak, 1950s. So, we've had legends of ghosts, murders, creatures, and haunted railway tunnels, but Mississippi wins for the most unusual legend, a disease that made men omit an odor that turned women, upon smelling it, into homicidal maniacs. Like, seriously? Some legends say it was a disease that came from Europe, while others say the men ingested too much lead. There's also a conspiracy about how the government screwed up and tried to cover it up. Guess some things are worse than the cloying scent of Axe body spray. I disagree.
1,
Missouri, Molly Crenshaw's graves. There are a few different versions of exactly who Miss Crenshaw was and how she died. Some say she was a Haitian or Jamaican woman who was burned as a witch in the 1800s after a crop failure, because that's what you do, you burn people for witchcraft. In other versions, she's a voodoo lady, an ex-slave who worked to said voodoo on her neighbors. What these legends have in common is that supposedly Molly was chopped into pieces and buried in several graves, leaving her separate parts to wiggle together under the dirt and try to reunite.
Oh.
Cool. Teenagers have been looking for her graves for over 50 years. So, if your state was mentioned in this list, did you know any of these legends? What are some other interesting stories that your state tells? Let us know in the comments below or tweet your answer to us at List25. We're from Florida, so legends are born every day.
Every day. I would love to hear your
Okay.
spooky stories.
Apparently you have a lot of them.
I have a lot of them.
Ghost.
Alright, guys. Yeah, if your guys' state has been mentioned about the urban legends, comment. If you guys know. You guys ever heard of those legends? If you have, like, comment, subscribe, and push the notification bell. Can't speak, but if you have enjoyed this content, make sure you like and subscribe. I will see you guys next time.